Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah shir. We are holding Mishnah Berurah Chilek Gimel, and in Mirz Hashem today we will be learning Daf Yud Gimel Amid Beis. Our learning today should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Hanesunim Batzara Ubashivya Ha'imnim Bein Bayom Ubein Bayabasha Hamakim Yerachem Aleihem V'Yitzei Mitzar L'Rvacha Me'afelu La'iro Mishibah L'Geula Hashta Bagala Ubizman Kariv V'Naimar Amen. So we pick up today on the very top line of Yud Gimel Amid Beis with the words of the Ramah about halfway through the line, Haga. So, we've learned over here so far in Siman Reish Mem Ches, we've been discussing the halachas of somebody who wishes to embark on a journey before Shabbos. We spoke about somebody who wants to travel by sea. He's going to go on a ship. We spoke about somebody who's traveling by land as part of a shayara, a caravan. In both cases, we saw that if you're leaving for a dvar rishus, you're not allowed to leave less than 3 days before Shabbos. You want to go travel for a dvar rishus, you want to get on a ship for a dvar rishus, you've got to leave Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You cannot leave Wednesday, Thursday, or Erev Shabbos. So to a shayara, you want to go travel as part of a shayara. Traveling by shayara is going to entail chil Shabbos. If you're traveling by animal, you're going to be being over in Issa Drabanan of riding on an animal. There are also our tchum issues, both by ship, both by land. So you have to leave more than 3 days before Shabbos. We saw that the reason you're allowed to leave more than 3 days in advance of Shabbos is because the first 3 days of the week are considered to be attached to the previous Shabbos. They're not attached to the coming Shabbos. Therefore, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, you don't have the achrayas of the coming Shabbos upon you yet. And therefore, to put yourself in a matziv where you might come to Chil Shabbos on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that we said you could do. That was for a dvar rishus. Now, how about if you're traveling for a dvar mitzvah? So when you're traveling for a dvar mitzvah, we saw in the beginning of Reish Mem Ches that if you want to get on a ship for a dvar mitzvah, you're allowed to get on the ship and set sail even on Erev Shabbos. The Mechaber said, when you get on the ship, you should be paisik, you should try to make an agreement with the crew that they're going to stop on Shabbos. Excuse me. However, if they do not keep to that agreement, if they don't stop on Shabbos, not your problem. We saw in the Mishnah Berurah that when it comes to traveling by ship, the making of that agreement is mitzvah ba'alba. What you're trying to do is you're making at least an attempt that there should not be any chil Shabbos going on Shabbos. Now, why are you allowed for a dvar mitzvah? Why are you allowed to set sail so close to Shabbos? Why are you allowed to set sail on Erev Shabbos? Isaac b'mitzvah, Potter ben mitzvah. The question of putting yourself in a matzav where you might come to chil Shabbos is only a derabanan. You're traveling for a mitzvah, so this is allowable. When it comes to a shayara, also, the Mechaber gave a case. The Mechaber said, how about somebody who's traveling to Eretz Yisrael? The Mechaber said, if he has a shayara, if he has a caravan available to him that's leaving on Erev Shabbos, since he's performing a mitzvah by traveling to Eretz Yisrael, he would be allowed to leave even on Erev Shabbos. By shayara, the Mechaber said, upaisik imayim lishpais. He has to make an agreement with the Bnei HaShayara, with the people of the caravan, that they will stop traveling on Shabbos. And over there we saw that the agreement is li'ikuva. You have to make the agreement that they're going to stop on Shabbos. If they tell you up front that they're not willing to make such an agreement, you're not allowed to leave with them. If they make the agreement and then they break the agreement, that's okay. But over here by Shayara, they have to be nochis to that agreement. You have to make that agreement up front. And the reason for the distinction between traveling by ship and traveling by shayara is because when you travel by a shayara, there's a vadois that you're going to come to Chil Shabbos. The questions of tchum, traveling by land, are much bigger shilas. And also, like I said, you're going to be traveling by animal. Traveling by animal, you're definitely going to be over Isurei D'Rabbanan. So that's kind of a synopsis of what we've seen so far here in Siman Reish Mem Ches. Now we're going to conclude this Siman. Says the Ramah Yud Gimel Amid Beis, top line. Haga. Yesh Oimrim, there are those that say, Kol Makom She'adam Holech L'Schaira, anytime somebody is traveling for business purposes, Oy lirois penei chaveroi, or even if he's traveling because he wants to go visit somebody. Choshev hakoil dvar mitzvah. These are all called dvar mitzvah. We see this great distinction between traveling for a dvar harishus, where you must leave more than 3 days before Shabbos, and traveling for a dvar mitzvah, where you're allowed to leave even on Erev Shabbos. Says the Ramah, there are those that say traveling for business, that's called a mitzvah. Traveling to go visit somebody, that's called a mitzvah. Continues the Ramah, Ve'enai chashiv dvar harishus. What do we call a dvar harishus? What do we call optional travel? Rak kishahoylech l'tayel. That's only when you're going for a pleasure cruise. When you're just going sightseeing, that's called a dvar harishus. But almost anything else is a dvar mitzvah. And therefore, says the Ramah, Nagu b'ktas b'kaimais, in some places the minhag has become lahakel be'inyan haflagas hasfinois v'halicha shayara toich shloisha yamim. The minhag has become to be very makel and to allow embarking on a journey by sea, getting on a ship and setting sail, or traveling by caravan, even within 3 days of Shabbos, because they consider almost everything to be a dvar mitzvah. Ki chayshvem hakoil l'dvar mitzvah, because somehow they consider all of the traveling to be dvar mitzvah. And says the Ramah, ve'ein limchais biyadan, you cannot protest to people who do this. Hayil v'yesh lehem al misha yismaichu, because says the Ramah, they have who to rely on with this. They're not coming from nowhere. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Kat Lamed Daled. L'schaira. The Ramah said there are those that feel that traveling for business is considered a dvar mitzvah. Says the Ramah, says the Mishnah Berurah, Afilu yesh lo mezainos. We're not talking about somebody who's poverty stricken, and therefore it's a dvar mitzvah because he pashut needs to go make money to support his family. No, afilu yesh lo mezainos. Somebody has parnasa, he has what he needs. V'hoylech l'schaira laharvacha. He's going to travel because he found out that if he travels somewhere else, he can make a killing. He can make a great deal, and he wants to make a lot of money. He's doing it only for harvacha. That's also called a dvar mitzvah. The ligvois mayos me'ena Yehudi shehu chayla. How about if you have an Eina Yehudi who owes you money, and you find out that the Eina Yehudi has taken ill, and you're afraid that if the Eina Yehudi passes on, you're never going to get your money. So you want to travel now. It's kind of a shasat chak. You want to travel now to get to him before he passes on, so you should be able to collect your money. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Kol oid she'ena goises, unless this Eina Yehudi is mamish at death's door, loy mikri pseida vadois. The Magen Avraham says you cannot call this a definite loss. If you find out that this person is mamish on his deathbed, so then we say, okay, you're faced with a heavy pseida, a heavy loss. If you don't travel now, we would be matter to let you travel. We would be matter for you to travel now. But if he's not on his deathbed, you just found out that he's sick, we don't call that a pseida vadois, and we would not allow travel within 3 days of Shabbos. So says the Magen Avraham. However, the El Yerabba mekel bazeh. The El Yerabba is mekel. Kevet de loigara mehoyach l'schaira. Because look against the backdrop of the halacha that we just saw previously. We just said that even somebody who has money, he's traveling to go make a good deal. He's traveling laharvacha to make extra money. We said that he's allowed to travel within 3 days of Shabbos, and we're going to call that a dvar mitzvah. So if you're going to collect money from somebody who's ill, right, when you're going for schara for harvacha, that's also not a sure thing. So this is also not a sure thing. This is l'chara, not any less than that. And therefore it would be mutter to travel to collect this money from the Eina Yehudi within 3 days. Where this is discussed at greater detail. Okay, the Ramah said people are makel by setting sail on a ship or going out on a caravan. Says the Mishnah Berurah, V'das Magen Avraham b'shem kama paiskim. However, it's the opinion of the Magen Avraham, and he quotes this in the name of many paiskim, the bahalicha shayara ein lahakel, that we should not be quick to be makel by traveling by land. I said in the preface of today's shir that we saw a great distinction between traveling by ship and traveling by land. Traveling by ship is considered more kal than traveling by land. Traveling by ship, we said, entails a suffix that you might come to Chil Shabbos. What happens if you're on the ship and there's a storm and they need some extra help tying down the sails? So you might have to be over you might have to perform the Meleches Isser of kosher. You might have to start tying things. What happens if you have to help fire up the steam? So, okay, you do Havara. But these are all sveikas. It could be that you'll be able to sit in your stateroom all day and chazer daf yomi. So there's no vadois that you're going to come to perform Meleches Isser on Shabbos when you travel by ship. Also, when it comes to the shalos of tchum, we saw that if the keel of the ship, if the bottom of the ship is more than 10 tefachim elevated over the seabed, you don't have a tchum shaila. So the shilos by traveling by ship are a lot smaller than the shilos by traveling by land. Traveling by land, automatically you're going to have tchum issues, and traveling as part of a shayara, you're automatically going to have an issa d'rabbanan of traveling on an animal. So it's much more worrisome that you're going to come to Chil Shabbos traveling on a shayara. Therefore, says the Magen Avram, while we could be maker like these shittas who kind of chalk up everything to a dvar mitzvah when it comes to traveling by ship, not so fast when it comes to traveling by land as part of a shayara. Okay, now we move along to a new Siman Reish Mem Tes, Dinam HaShayachim LeErev Shabbos. Halachas that pertain to Erev Shabbos and to preparing for Shabbos. Ubay Dalet Seifim, and here we have 4 Seifim. Says the Mechaber, a very, very important halacha that some people don't even realize that there is a halacha about this. Says the Mechaber, Ein holchim be'erev Shabbos, you're not allowed to travel on Erev Shabbos, yoser mishalosh parsois, a distance greater than 3 parsois. Now, a parsa is 4 mil. So a mil is 2,000 amas. A parsa is 8,000 amas. 3 parsois is 24,000 amas. This is approximately 7.5 miles. Okay? Don't get into a panic yet. Let's see the halacha here. Ein holchim be'erev Shabbos yoser mishalosh parsois. You're not allowed to travel on Erev Shabbos a distance greater than 3 parsa. Why? Because we want you to arrive at your home, and the Mishnah Berurah is going to say, over here, your home is lav dafka. It means we want you to arrive wherever you're spending Shabbos, ba'oid hayom gadol, when there's plenty of time to Shabbos, so that you will be able to properly prepare for Shabbos. We don't want you showing up where you're going to spend Shabbos a half hour before Shabbos. We want you showing up where you're going to spend your Shabbos with plenty of time for proper preparation for Shabbos. And says the Mechaber, this is true. Bein shaholech lebeis acherim. This is true whether you're going to spend Shabbos as a guest in someone else's home. Bein shaholech lebeisai, or you're going to your own home. Continues the Mechaber. V'hani mili kishahu b'yishuv. However, this restriction against traveling more than 3 parsa is only if you're traveling, and at the end of 3 parsa, you arrive at a place where you can spend Shabbos. If you come to a yishuv, you have a nice Yiddish neighborhood, and there's a place for you to properly spend Shabbos, then you could go ahead and spend Shabbos. So you stop, don't travel anymore. So v'hani mili, when do we say that you have to curtail your traveling at 3 parsa kishu b'yishuv? That's when you finish your 3 parsa, you're at a yishuv. B'makam sheyuchal la'achim tzarchei Shabbos. You're in a place where you could properly prepare for Shabbos and spend Shabbos. Avalin b'makam shehusham yef shaloi la'achim tzarchei Shabbos. But if you traveled and now at the end of 3 parsa you're in the middle of nowhere, or certainly if it's not a safe place, then you would be allowed to travel even many parsa to arrive at where you need to arrive. Now, how about if you're traveling somewhere for Shabbos and the people at your destination are expecting you? You called Thursday night. You said, I'm coming for Shabbos. So now either you're going home and B'nai Beischa, the people of your household, are expecting you, or you're going as a guest to somebody and they're expecting you. So now it's not pshat that you're going to come in a half hour before Shabbos and they didn't prepare for you. Now you're expected. So wherever your destination is, they are preparing Shabbos for you. If you sent word that you're coming for Shabbos, then you would be allowed to travel even many, many, many parsais. So we've said quite a bit over here, but basically the halacha is that there is a restriction in how much travel you're allowed to do on Erev Shabbos. The basic reason for the restriction is because we want to make sure that Shabbos is prepared for properly. Not only do we want to make sure that Shabbos is prepared for properly, we're also worried about the potential for Chil Shabbos. We're going to see in the Mishnah Berurah, one of the things we're afraid of is if you're traveling somewhere and you're going to arrive very close to Shabbos, maybe they didn't expect you. If they didn't expect you, now they might suddenly have to add some more potatoes and some more meat to the cholent. Now they might suddenly decide to put up another side dish or another main dish, and we're uncomfortably close to Shabbos, and we're afraid of Chil Shabbos. So let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah, and let's discuss this halacha in a little bit greater detail. Says the Mishnah Berurah, first of all, the Mechaber said that the restriction is you're not allowed to travel more than 3 parsa, which I told you is approximately 7.5 miles. Okay, how exactly do we measure this? Is this a distance measurement? How about if I'm traveling by car? Over here, the halacha is talking about somebody who's traveling by foot. What if I'm traveling by car? If I'm traveling by car, it doesn't take very long to travel 7.5 miles. So how do we measure this? Says the Mishnah Berurah. You're not allowed to travel more than 3 parsa mitchilas hayoim, from the beginning of the day. V'hu karov lishlish hayoim. This means, says the Mishnah Berurah, that you're allowed to travel approximately 1/3 of the day. If you start your traveling right away in the morning, we're going to allow you to travel approximately 1/3 of the day. How do we arrive at that? Because an Adam Beinani walks 10 parsais in a day. So if you could walk approximately 10 parsais in a day, so 3 parsa is approximately 1/3. It's a little bit less than 1/3, but it's approximately 1/3. Now, based on this understanding, says the Chafetz Chaim, somebody who's not walking, somebody who's traveling in a wagon, or he's galloping on a horse, so he travels much faster than somebody who's walking. So then the measurement of 7.5 miles, the measurement of 3 parsa, goes away, because basically it's a time issue. Our concern is we want you to arrive at your destination with plenty of time to properly prepare for Shabbos and avoid any chance of Chil Shabbos. So if you're traveling in a modern mode of travel, if you're traveling by car, right, so then you don't have, it's not a question of distance, it's a question of time. You have up to 1/3 of the day, so you can travel a lot further than 3 parsa. So if you're Reichav al Sus, and I said, B'mehera, then you could travel much more than 3 parsa. Ad shlish hayoim. You get 1/3 of the day for traveling. Now, the Bach gives us a very big kula. For the Bach, it is mashma lahakal b'neisea ba'agala, to be makel by somebody who's traveling in a wagon. Lisa afilo achar chatzos hayoim. The Bach says, forget 1/3 of the day. You could travel even after chatzos if you're traveling by agala. So long as you stop your travel and you arrive at your destination when there's plenty of time. So that you should have plenty of time to properly prepare for Shabbos. Now the question becomes, what exactly is the rationale of the Bach? The rationale to expand the distance depending on your mode of travel, that we understand. It's all a question of time, not a question of distance. So if you're traveling with a very fast mode of travel, yes, we're going to allow you to travel further, but still you only have a third of the day. Why is the Bach saying that if you're traveling by car, you're traveling in an Agola, you could travel even after Chatzos? So the Pri Megadim discusses this. There's a nice Dirshu footnote over here, Dirshu footnote number 3. Ubetam Adavar, as far as what the rationale for this Bach is, Kosav a Pri Megadim, the Pri Megadim writes, Shebenaisea ba'Agola, somebody who's traveling by wagon, Efsher l'sha'er es meshech zman hanesia. He could very accurately understand how long the trip is going to take. When you travel by foot, how hot is it outside? How tired are you going to get? How hungry are you going to get? We don't know. What kind of path are you going to be walking on? Is there a lot of uphill or is it all downhill? Right? How much do your feet hurt? So when you're traveling by foot, excuse me, there's a much greater concern, says the Pri Megadim, that the traveling is going to stretch out. Masha'enke b'hoilech baraglov, and this stands in contrast to somebody who's, when you're traveling by wagon, it's efshel l'sharis meshech zman hanesia. You could very easily approximate and figure out how long the trip is going to take. But when it comes to traveling by foot, you cannot really accurately predict how long the trip is going to be. You have to worry that you might get tired. And the trip is going to end up taking you a lot longer. So says the Pri Megadim, this is why the Bach says, you're traveling by Agola, I'm even going to be making to let you travel after Chatzos, as long as you're going to get to your destination with plenty of time. Why? Because you're going to set a Waze, and Waze is going to tell you how long the trip is going to take, so you know how long the trip is going to take. But traveling by foot, I can't let you travel more than a third of the day. Mishnah Berurah points out that it is important when you're traveling by Agola as well, or by car. You have to keep in mind traffic. There's always a big problem. People in the New York area during the summer, when they're going up to the mountains on Erev Shabbos, we know what Route 17 turns into on Erev Shabbos. People really have to take into consideration, traffic, accidents, etc., etc. Okay. Weiter. Now, the Mechaber said that this halacha pertains bein shahilach lebeis acherim, whether you're going, your destination is you're going to be a guest in somebody else's house, or bein shahilach lebeisai, or you're going to your own home. Says the Mishnah Berurah's Cotton Base. There's a chiddush inherent in saying that this halacha applies when you're traveling to your own home. Hainu. Oh no! First, the Mishnah Berurah says lebeisai, like I spoke out. Hainu lamakim sheshoyves sham. Beisai doesn't necessarily mean your home. It means whatever your destination is for Shabbos, wherever you're spending Shabbos. So if you're going to a hotel for Shabbos, that's called Beisai. You have to leave with plenty of time to arrive there at a decent time. The Mechaber told us this halacha applies both if you're going as a guest to someone else's home or you're going to your own home. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Somebody might think, I want to travel and go home on Erev Shabbos, and even if I'm going to arrive late, I don't care. I'm going to my own home. I'm going to my family. I'm going to my own bed. I'm going to my own food. So I'm much more comfortable at home. So give me a dispensation and allow me, if I'm traveling to my own home, let me leave even later. Says the Mishnah Berurah, no. It's still aser. Maybe they don't know that you're coming. And when daddy shows up at home, suddenly they're going to want to add more stuff to the cholent. Now the Mishnah Berurah says a very, very important thing that kind of gives us a better understanding of how we are to apply this halacha in our day and age. In our region, says the Chavetz Chaim, Roiv b'nei Adam mechinim tzarchei Shabbos berevach. It's interesting that the Chavetz Chaim is saying this even in pre-war Radin. Says the Chavetz Chaim, in our regions, people prepare plenty for Shabbos. They have Shabbos berevach. And therefore, ein nizarin bazeh klal. They're not really nizar in this halacha. Why? Because there is no worry that you're going to show up and Shabbos isn't going to be prepared. They're going to have to add another potato to the challah. Everybody prepares berevach. So even if you come to your destination a half hour before Shabbos, there's going to be plenty. Bein kishaylech lebeisai. This is true whether you're going to your own home, or you're going as a guest to somebody else's home. He brings this down for the Magen Avram in the name of the Aguda. However, the Chavetz Chaim says in many Achrayim I saw written to become Makam Tzarech Lizar Lechatchila Shelo Yelech Yisad Samach LeErev. You definitely should take care not to be traveling and arriving at your destination late, but Erev, in the evening, very close to Shabbos. Because many stumbling blocks come up because of this. And it ends up with Chil Shabbos. Maybe the host where you're going, or even in your own home, if you show up very close to Shabbos, they end up cooking extra for you, in Shabbos, and they're looking at the clock, they're counting the seconds until Shkia, and they throw a potato in the challah a little bit too late, chas v'chalila. Excuse me. V'gam, and also says the Chavetz Chaim, kama pa'amim ye'era, many times it happens, people are wise guys. They leave too late on Erev Shabbos, and suddenly they're stuck on Route 17 on Shabbos by Shkia. The Kama Chil Shabbos Yesh B'Hitzah V'Hachnasa, and then they end up coming to Chil Shabbos with being over on Hitzah, taking packages from one place to another place. V'Yitzia Michutz L'Tchum, traveling out of the Tchum. U'Shvisas Behemtoi, and Shvisas Behemtoi, if you're riding on an animal, or all sorts of other halachic issues if you're traveling by car. Therefore, somebody should place all of these concerns on his mind very well. And if it's late, stop where you are. Stop in a village where you are. Don't let the Yetzer tell you, nah, the traffic is moving. It's going good. But if it does happen that you're traveling all the way up to Chashecha, to Shkia, and you find yourself within the Tchum at Ben Hashmashos, you're allowed to travel in the city like we're going to see later on. But you would have to get off the wagon or off the horse because that would entail Yisirei D'Rabbanan. Ayin Simon Reish Samach Vav Shav Yavur Im Yirtzeh Hashem. Ois Cotton Dalet. The Mechaber said, when is this true that you have to curtail your traveling at 3 parsa? The Mechaber said, that's if, when you arrive at the 3 parsa mark, you're in a place where you could stop and you could prepare Shabbos and you could have Shabbos. V'ani mili kishahu, return to learn what the Mechaber wants to say over here is, v'makim shekalu hashalish parsais. V'hani mili, said the Mechaber, when is this restriction true? That's when you end your 3 parsa limit in a yishuv. Okay, kosav alavush. V'ayin mel yerabba. I've cut hey. She'enoi, if the place that you arrive at is not considered safe, says the Mishnah Berurah, any place on the derech is not safe. Da'amida b'derech, stopping in the middle of a journey on the road, eina makom batuach. That's not considered safe. T'chal hadrachim b'cheskas sakana. When you're on the road, that's a sakana. V'lachein afilu yeshi maitzeda k'dei tzarchei Shabbos. Even if you have food with you, mutar lo lisa misham atchiyav l'makom batuach. You're allowed to travel beyond the 3 parsa mark to get to a nice, safe place. Kama parsais and mekamakom yizar shelo yisach alavi at samach le'erev. Certainly, you should take care not to arrive at your destination very close to Erev Shabbos, to Shabbos. V'chanal b'siv cotton gimel. I can tell you that my Rebbe, Rav Feinstein, and his father, the Yeshiva Zatzal, Rav Moshe, were very makpid. They really, really did not like traveling on Erev Shabbos after Chatzos. Even if we're traveling by car, they did not like traveling on Erev Shabbos after Chatzos. Sometimes you have no choice. Well, like the Chavetz Chaim said, everybody has to be meisama aliboy, the great concerns that are involved with traveling too far, too late on Erev Shabbos. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. Discuss of limud HaTorah should be made against Klal Yisrael. The Ranjam should send Yeshua for his parnasa. Shaduchim to all those in need. We should be zeicher to see the Bias Girl Tzedek B'Meher V'Yameinu Amen. Be well.